watching Avenue X, and today I want to talk about a movie that I have just watched in the cinema, Project Hail Mary. So this is that video, like I usually do once or twice, maybe even less than that, a year, where I don't talk about a Chinese drama, but a movie. And I honestly can't even remember when's the last time I talked about a movie on my channel that's not a Chinese movie. Why I want to talk about it? Because this is a movie that I've been waiting for years. Officially, I think the book was published in May 2021, written by the same author who wrote the novel Martian, that also got made into a movie, Ending Weird. I definitely got the book and read it in digital form right after it became available on Amazon, and really liked the story. Last year, they released the first trailer, and ever since then, I've been waiting for the movie. And finally it came out, and finally I went into a cinema that I haven't actually been to for a whole year. So, a rare movie review from Avenue X. I'll first let you know there will be spoilers in this review, so if you don't like it and you've never read the book, you don't know what the story is about, and you actually want to watch the movie based on what you see in the trailer, you should go and watch the movie first and come back to my video. And then for the rest of you who know something about this story, if not the whole thing, then let's talk about the movie. I watched it on IMAX, the only IMAX we get here in Winnipeg, which definitely is not the best IMAX out there, but you've got to make do. The movie is 2.5 hours long, so you do have to plan your loo time before going into the cinema. Before I went into the theater, I did watch some promotional interviews, and this manuscript, before it even got published, already arrived at Ryan Gosling's table, and basically he read it and he was already decided to be the person who plays the character, and then the book got published. So you can say it's almost written for his screen image. And also the main character is also shortened as RS. Other things about this movie is it's a very proper mainstream Hollywood movie, high budget, and it's in space, so it's sci-fi. Although you can argue how hard sci-fi it is, because I feel the book is very hard sci-fi, but then when it got adapted to screen, they definitely softened that quite a lot. As how I would usually do my Chinese drama reviews, I would also talk about this. First, briefly tell you what the story is, and then the good and bad. Or in this case, I think I would call it what I like and what I don't like about the movie. So the story is in a near future. One day people realized sun is slowly putting out less energy. And they found out why, because there is a single cell organism that is stealing energy from the sun. And in projected about 2-3 decades, Earth will get too cold, will go into ice age, farming will be destroyed, and most humans and other species will die. So scientists try to find out how to stop that. And they analyzed all the stars in immediate zone around solar system and found almost every star is infected, apart from one star that seems to be doing fine among all the infected stars. So the only way to find out how to save Earth is to send something over there to that star and find out why it's not dying, and then hopefully find a resolution and send it back. So they built a ship, and the only ship that the Earth can afford, and then can only send 3 people up for all kinds of reasons. And hopefully when that team arrives, they can find out what is going on and send their resolution back, but they cannot come back. There's not enough energy for them to travel back. Anyway, suicide mission, trying to figure out what happens. And it's a long shot, therefore it's Hail Mary, as in baseball. That's the basic setup. And our main character, played by Ryan Gosling, is a biochemistry kind of like doctor genius who wasn't liked by academia and got kicked out. Therefore, he went to a school and became a teacher. Yet, because his expertise is in hypothesizing that there can be life without water, and got picked for this project. And unwillingly became one of the people who got sent up to space. We start the story when he's already traveled to that star, waking up from a long hibernation period and have completely lost his memory and not remembering why he's there and what he's supposed to do. And then at the end, spoil it for you, obviously, he's gonna save the Earth, but in a very unexpected way, and meeting unexpected people on the way. So that's the story, Project Hail Mary. I think it's so well known in the sci-fi novel world that if you know anything, you probably have already heard about the story. Also, the very famous sci-fi writer in China, Liu Cixin, he is also a fan of this book. I think in one of the interviews, when an interviewer asked him, this year, what is the best sci-fi novel idea that you've read? And he actually said it was Hail Mary. Now, that aside, let's talk about the movie itself. I will talk about the likes and dislikes. So, what I like about this movie. Number one, if you've read the book, the good thing about it is it does cover pretty much everything the book is talking about. Although there's significant deduction and simplification, sometimes like just jumping to conclusion instead of telling you the process of certain parts. Because the book is actually quite big and it goes into a lot of details about all the sciences and why this works and why that works and what is the design of the aliens even, for example, and their planet and the details, and all that is quite well explained. Honestly, if you want to do it chapter by chapter and all the details in the book moved to the visual form, you probably need a mini series, like at least 3 episodes on Netflix. Probably you can cover it like 5 to 6 hours. This is a 2.5-hour movie, so a lot of things get condensed down. But the good news is they don't change significantly some of the important stuff and they don't do too much of an alteration. Number 2, overall the production design aesthetics, how the movie is shot, how it looks, the sound, the music, that department is pretty nice. Until you see it in the movie form, when you read it and you imagine it, it's still kind of blurry. But when you see it, how they did it, for example, when you go to the space, the alien aircraft or the planet they try to get samples that looks like a more evil version of Jupiter. Petrova line that cannot be seen by eyes, but once you turn on that device and you can see the red dots that floats like a really beautiful artistic line. Anyway, those imageries are very, very beautiful. The design of the spacecraft, the interior space, the astronauts' suits, they have the overall sort of aesthetics that I appreciate. It's not super like futuristic. So overall, I think it's very pleasing to the eye and the ears movie. Sometimes it can even appear to be a little bit too beautiful and artistic than, say, a typical sci-fi movie. The third thing that I really like is it's very, very good casting. I mean, first for Ryan Gosling, he's kind of like decided to be the character before even anyone read the book. So it's not the question about perfect casting. It's about like the whole thing is kind of done for him or with his image in head when the writer wrote it. So yeah, what can you say? And he's a very likable actor. I find it's really funny. I'm yet to meet a person who knows there is an actor in the world named Ryan Gosling and what he looks like and say they don't like him. They may say, I don't care that much, but there's like no dislike. He just has that quality of, you may not think of him as the greatest actor out there or the most good looking one, but it's hard to dislike him. You look at his face, quietly concentrate for like 5 to 10 seconds and you start to like him. Some people just have it. What can you say? I remember back in the days when I was doing the landscape architecture degree here in Winnipeg. There's a lady in our class, she's crazy about Ryan Gosling. Every time anybody mentions his name, she would scream. The other very important role in this movie would be Strat, the lady who's in charge of the whole project and who's absolutely logical, rational. And Sandra Hüller, after you've watched her, it's also very hard to imagine anyone else playing this role. I didn't even realize it's the same person from the movie The Anatomy of a Fall. It was like halfway, I'm like, it's her. Because I guess short hair and long hair makes a huge difference. I just didn't realize it's her. She's very important in the book. And then she's also very important, the second most important face in this movie, and also very good casting and very good performance. Then finally, Rocky. I admit, I feel Rocky in my head will look more sinister, even harder, darker in color, but I don't have a huge complaint because it's a spider looking like thing with 5 legs and that's made of almost rock. So it still looks like that. It's just slightly different from what I imagined. The voice acting really works for this character. So casting department and the main characters, the faces you see in this movie, can't think of any reason that anybody would have a problem with it. Then the most important thing that probably will make it work for most of the audiences, whether you've read the book or not, you go to the cinema and you think this movie actually worked on you, even if it's not the best thing out there, it still is like not a disappointment and not waste of money, would be, it is actually a very emotional story. The emotional core of this story holds together quite well. It is really easy for the audiences to go with what the story wants to do and where it wants to go, and at the point where it wants you to tear up, you will. And it is a story that weirdly, although it's a very end of the world scenario, it still makes you feel very hopeful and very warm inside and very fuzzy. If you have to say, taking everything away, what would be the most long-lasting impression thing? It would be that emotional connection, that camaraderie between two species who've never met each other. This is the first time they met, and they have to not only risk their own lives to do the task, but also risk their own lives to save each other so that their planet and their civilization can be saved. Those very huge things personalized into these two specific characters' relationship, and it's Ryan Gosling with a puppet, but it really worked. The last thing would be, it's just funny that it comes out in March 2026. Just about a month ago, we've got a big war starting, and it's not yet finished, and it doesn't look like it's gonna end anytime soon. And it's human fighting humans for whatever reason. Oh, story on our planet. While this story is huge in scale, we're talking about a sun dying and multiple suns dying in the universe, and we're talking about human and another alien species who just accidentally met in space, and they tried the best to communicate, to build from ground zero, to understand each other and help each other, figuring out how to save each other's planet, in that process becoming friends. Basically, it is stretching the concept of everyone should come together, we should be friends, we should help each other instead of be enemies, beyond Earth scale, where you stretch it to the universe scale, and it gives you this very warm and hopeful outlook for universe. It is like the polar opposite idea about how the universe works of three body, the dark forest theory, where each civilization is out there to hunt the other. In Andy Weir's book and in this movie, super idealized version and polar opposite of the reality we're living on Earth. And I don't know, it almost feels like a universe's joke on humans to make this movie screen at this time. It is great to see that there are still people who are willing to believe in that and make it into a movie to tell other people that you should also be willing to believe in that. That looks like a much better future for everyone instead of what we actually have these days. So all the things that this movie gives makes me feel it's worth the time I've spent to go to a theater to watch it and spend the money. Yet, it is not perfect. So now I'm gonna talk about what I don't like about the movie. The biggest complaint about this movie is it's not hard enough. The book is very detailed about how everything works. A lot of it got so concentrated or just briefly brushed over that it doesn't give you the full picture of the complexity, of the craziness, of the genius ideas of the sci-fi novel that the book has. For example, when our main character first woke up, he actually was completely unable to do anything. If you've been sleeping for years, you're not going to be able to immediately start to walk. Your muscles should be completely useless at that point, which is what the book has. Yet in this movie version, he was very quickly to get up, and it's actually shot to be funny. Also, he was locked down in this chamber in the spaceship because the system is designed to first test him to make sure he can think straight and then allow him to access other parts of the ship, otherwise he may do stupid things. And he has to remember his name, he has to do mathematics, he has to basically pass the basic, and then to go to the next compartment, the door would only open for him then. Yet in this version, you don't get that. Like, he immediately goes everywhere in the ship, which probably is not a good idea. I think they could follow this. It wouldn't make a difference in terms of shooting it. I like the more hard scientific explanation and reasoning of the book. And this goes to many other parts of the story. For example, the detailed explanation of how Rocky's physical body works. When he finally got contact with the stone alien who looks like a spider, he got to know their blood is made of mercury. They have this like really interesting double system in their body that one maintains their temperature, the other cools them down, and why they cannot get in contact with oxygen and with the Earth atmosphere, because it will instantly basically destroy their tiny vessels in their skin and then burn them. And that's one of the important things you need to know, because later when Rocky breaks out and saves him, Rocky basically risked his own life. And also in how the movie visualizes it, it makes too much of an artistic interpretation, and I feel like it's less making sense. For example, the space suit that Rocky can build for both of them to control the atmosphere, pressure, temperature, air within the space so that they can go to each other's ship. It is basically just triangular, like pieced together glass like thing that can follow their body shape when they go around. How do you actually make sure there's actually right pressure, temperature, and amount of air in that space for the person to breathe? You don't even see a system that can actually continuously creating whatever oxygen or ammonia that the species need to breathe, right? It looks very artistic, but it will not work. Like, you look at it, it's like, it's definitely not gonna work. Like, where is the system? Also, for some reason in the movie, almost at the end of the story, like one chapter before the end of the story, when Rocky saves Grace, Grace also saves Rocky at the same time because he knows he's gonna burn. So to save him, he breaks the seal and he basically risks 200-degree gas, ammonia, in his face to take Rocky and throw him into his safe space. Got himself really, really badly burned. That actually doesn't happen in the movie. It's only the Rocky saves Grace and put him on the bed, and it doesn't tell you how he basically ended up sealing him back into the safe environment for himself to recover. And Grace just wakes up from the bed and realized he's being, I don't know, treated by the ship's system. The thing is, if Rocky is very much injured, how would he go back to his safe, sealed space once he's broke out? He's burning, right? How he gets himself back. The movie completely omits that part. And I don't understand why they cannot film it. Basically, it's an event that happens at the same time. The alien saves Grace, and Grace immediately saves Alien. They both get very badly injured, and it's kind of like fair exchange. And the ending also is slightly different. It is a lot more, again, hard science, that once our lead character ended up on the alien planet, it no longer makes sense for him to try to go back to Earth. He would not survive the long travel, and he's in the environment that's not really his native environment. Even though they did the best for him, his health is no longer as good as before, and it will never get better. And he's eating his own flesh with cloning technology. And imagine, like, without fiber, I don't know how you survive, but let's say he survives. Yet that planet is twice the gravity of Earth, so his bone structure is very bad. His health is just not good. He's no longer fit for long travel, so that there's no possibility of basically him going back to Earth. And he made it very clear in the book that he's not going back. He's staying on this planet as long as he can and then just die there. And he becomes a teacher for the alien Rockies. I think that makes a lot more sense, right? But in the movie, it ends in this so romantic, like he's in this space where they built for him. It has a fake sky, fake ocean, fake everything. He lives in this house, walking on the beach and then talking to a Rocky in Rocky's suits. That again does not really make sense, how you maintain the pressure and temperature and constant supply of whatever atmosphere you need to breathe. It's just not hard enough for me. And I feel, and on many occasions, the movie could just bother with a couple of more lines. Make it clearer how the science works. And I think it's important because once you understand the science, then you understand the price that these characters pay, and it just becomes more even solid, like a stronger ground and foundation for you to feel for them. In this movie, currently, there are actually a lot of short scenes that are done very artistically. It's like montage sequences when they are in the screen room built up for simulating Earth environment, and you see Rocky and Grace there having fun, having a party. And it almost makes Rocky look more like a companion and a pet than a scientist and a really good engineer of their planet. When I read the book, in my brain, the Rocky I imagined with a lot of dry humor, not understanding humor, dry humor, very hardworking, simple-minded but good engineer that just happens to be an alien species that doesn't look like humans and doesn't have a face. And this one still makes him look too much like a pet, due to they don't want to explain to you too much of the science and doesn't go to details of it. The fact is, if Grace didn't run into Rocky and his spaceship, the mission would have failed. Rocky also needs Grace because Grace did things that he cannot do so that he can save his planet. So it's a totally perfect marriage made in space. If they didn't run into each other, they would both fail. So it's like such an equal weight to characters in terms of fulfilling their project goal. The movie still makes Rocky looks way too cute and way too pet-like. I don't know why Hollywood insists on doing that. Maybe they think it makes Rocky look cuter and people enjoy it more. It's ultimately mainstream entertainment movie, but Honestly, I would much prefer a much cooler engineer Rocky who knows what he is doing. I feel if they cut a lot of those montage sequences and give the time to explain the science, maybe just add 10 minutes to explaining science, I feel the story would work a lot better. The movie didn't even bother to explain, even at the end, like when he got to their planet, what he needs to suffer because it's twice as heavy instantly, because it has no sunlight, it's completely dark, there's no food, so they had to clone his meat. And the movie totally didn't talk about that at all. Like, I was thinking, if people haven't read the book, right, at that point, at the very end of the movie, when they realized he ended up on their planet and he's living really nicely and still looking exactly like what he looks like on Earth, which is impossible. He's twice as heavy. Like, it would not be like that. People wouldn't be asking, but how he gets his food? Like, how does he survive? Is the water drinkable on their planet? Like, what is going on in it? There's no explanation. It just like is so artistic and lovely at the end. It looks cute, but I think anyone who goes into cinema watching this, knowing it's a sci-fi, they probably would be asking, yeah, but then, you know, like, what does he eat? You never mentioned it. The movie literally never mentioned how he survives on their planet. It's actually really interesting when you read the book and see how everything gets solved one by one, list of items to allow him to live on their planet. The conclusion on the not ideal and dislike part for me on the movie would be not enough scientific explanation where it can be done quite easily to make it make more sense, and also by not doing that, making Rocky look not as cool, because Rocky is very cool. He's first and foremost a genius engineer. And obviously Grace's best friend. He never expected to make. And the movie kind of did the second part, but didn't do the first part well. Still, overall, I'm very happy. I watched this movie in cinema, and it's worth an IMAX ticket. Honestly, I'm very disappointed in Hollywood. Okay, for the recent couple of years, I do not know what Hollywood is doing among all these award seasons. It baffles me. I'm like, can people still make good storytelling anymore? I think this movie, it knows what people want to pay money for, going to cinema for, and it doesn't bother with all the other politics and stupid messages. Proper old-fashioned movie at the end of the day. And we haven't seen that for a long time, honestly, for Hollywood. Even in its so-called mainstream, so-called highly entertainment-heavy stuff. Think about all the superhero movies that have completely crashed out and burned, and I don't even know who is who in the current whatever Marvel or DC universe. Like, I don't recognize any of those characters, don't care about them, don't want to watch any of the stuff coming out of it. Even in that kind of used to be money-making machine genre of Hollywood is like irrelevant. Maybe it's just to me, maybe it's still relevant to other people, but to me it has completely grown pointless. And this is one of those movies I watch, I'm like, oh, it kind of feels like the old days. It's like a movie that's made 10 years ago. And it's a compliment. When you say it's like a Hollywood movie that's made 10 years ago, it really is a compliment these days. That's how far everything has gone in 2026 in the most insane direction. Still, I really highly appreciate this movie, even though it's not the perfect screen adaptation from a book that I really like. And if you haven't read a book, you can read the book first and go watch the movie, or watch the movie first and then read the book, and you will kind of feel it's even greater because it does supply all the information you don't get in the movie. If you question, if you have some basic ideas about science, you're gonna question a lot of things because they really don't tell you in the movie. That is my opinion, a Chinese drama reviewer's opinion on the movie Project Hail Mary. If you haven't yet bought a ticket to this movie, hope this is useful for you to decide whether you want to invest your hard-earned money on this one. Thank you for watching Avenue X. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy movie watching.